Welcome to the Full Stack Academy. In this video, we are going to be taking a look at VS Code, otherwise known as Visual Studio Code. Alright, so what is VS Code? VS Code is an IDE. IDE means Integrated Development Environment. It is just like the Microsoft Word of those who are into writing text, all those and all that. So you can write your codes, your programs, you can write it on a piece of paper, you can write it on Microsoft Word, you can write it on WhatsApp, just wherever. But IDEs have been built for the sole purpose of writing codes. All right. So now VS Code is not the only IDE, Integrated Development Environment, that we have. We have several others as well, and I've been using more of these days. I've been using this one, Cursor. So Cursor, I like Cursor because it kind of mirrors VS Code as well. So if you are really into vibe coding, you may just want to try out some Cursor. We are going to be looking at that in some other classes. So here is VS Code. And now, how do you get started with VS Code? If you've downloaded VS Code, you are going to be having an interface as this. So the first thing you just want to do is you can delete this welcome. You can just take this one off. All right. So now, one thing you should understand when you are programming is organization. You want to organize your thoughts, you want to organize your ideas, your files, your folders, all those and all that. All right. So from here, I can click on File, and then I can click on Open Folder. But well, I'm making this video for those who are total beginners. So let's assume you don't have a folder. You can come over here in your if you are using Windows, you are going to be having a different interface. So you can just go anywhere, choose any folder that you want. I'm going to be creating the folder in my own Apple folder. So I'm going to right click. I will create this folder. Let me just say the Full Stack Academy. Let me just say Full Stack. Okay, let me just do this. All right, let's say for Stacker. Now that is a folder. Now this folder, I can come back to VS Code and then click on File, Open Folder, and then I can click on this folder for Stacker. Now when I click on that folder, VS Code open a new window for me, right? And then so you can see this for Stacker over here. That tells you that I am inside the Full Stacker folder or directory. So I can also come here to delete this. Now remember I told you that VS Code is an IDE, an integrated development environment. It is just used to write code, to write programs. It is not a programming language. All right. So now what else can we do? Now another thing you should get acquainted with is what we call the terminal. So the terminal, you can click on terminal, click on new terminal. It's going to open a terminal for you, or you can also use a command, control and backtick. The backtick sign is directly under your escape key. So if I do this now, so it's going to open up a terminal for me. All right, so it's going to open up a terminal for me. So let's do this, and then we have our terminal over here. So what then is the difference between a terminal, this space and this space? I'm going to explain that to you. Now the next thing you must understand is the difference between the CLI and the GUI, which is the GUI. The GUI stands for Graphical User Interface. The GUI stands for Graphical User Interface, while CLI stands for Command Line Interface. And I'm going to explain the difference now. Now, what do we mean by the Graphical User Interface? Now, the Graphical user interface actually just means you are doing more of your stuff with the graphical interface. You are using buttons, you are moving your mouse horizontal that. And let me show an example. Look at here. I can come over here to create a new file or a new folder. So if I click on this, it's going to prompt me to create a new file. If I also right click, it's asking me to create a new file. Now I am interacting with the screen in this way, moving my mouse up and down, clicking, right clicking, left clicking, horizontal that. Now that is me using the GUI. I can also do the same thing even here in the folder. I can come here, open the Fustacker folder itself. If you're on Windows horizontal that, if you right click, it's going to ask you to either create a new file or a new folder. So you can do those things here. Now whether you do it right in this folder or whether you do it inside VS Code and then you're having this right clicking horizontal that, you are using the GUI. So let's do that. Let's create a file using the GUI. Let me say test.py, enter. Now you see it has created this file, test.py. So if I also come here to and then you can see test.py inside what? The Fustacker folder. I can also do the same thing using my command line interface, and that is where terminal becomes important. And the first keyword I'm going to show you here is code. When you write code, space, and the name of the file you want to create. I want to create a file called hello.py. Enter. And then if I come here and press Ctrl S to save this, you can now see hello.py. If I also come here, I am also going to see this hello.py. So now the takeaway here is that I can create a file using the GUI, the graphical user interface, and I can as well just write this code, this command, code space hello.py. So if the name of my file would be something else, I am also going to write code space and then the name of that file that I want to create. So that is me now using the CLI, the command line interface. Now another thing I may also need to show you, it's why don't we just start with creating folders. Now the first folder we created, if you remember, all right, now before we go into creating folders, let me also just delete this. Now I can delete hello.py by right clicking and then deleting. Now it has deleted now, right? Because I have used the GUI, I right clicked, selected delete, and it deleted. I can also use the CLI, and then the command to delete a file in CLI, it is rm, and then you say rm, what is the name of the file that you want to delete? I want to delete my test.py, enter, and then you can see it's cleared out, it's cleared off. So we will no longer have any file inside the Fustacker folder. I have used the GUI and I've also used the CLI. Now another thing you may want to look at is folders. Now folders are very important because they help you organize your thought. Now what are folders like? Imagine you have a movie, it's a series, and then a movie might have season 1, season 2, season 3. Now season 1 may have episode 1 to whatever it is, season 2 may have episode whatever it is, and others and all that. So let me just imitate that. So we are going to create a new folder. I can come over here and click on this to create a new folder. I can right click to also create a new folder, or go here as well to create what? I can also come here to create a new folder myself. So now I can do that same thing using the CLI, and that command is mkdir, which is make dir, which means to make a directory or a folder. So I want to make a directory called season 1, and then you now see we have something called season 1 over there. I also want to make a directory called season 2, and then we also now have another folder called season 2. Now season 1 and season 2 must definitely have their corresponding episodes. So if I come over here and I click on this, you can see it is opening the folder, but the folder has no content. Now to know the content of a file, you need to, you can use this keyword called ls. Ls gives you the number of items. It displays the content that you have in your folder. It displays it to you. So I pressed ls now, so it told me that, oh, we have so it shows me that we have season 1 and what, and then season 2. All right, so now what else do we have here? So now we want to check the content of season 1 itself and season 2. We know that inside Fustaka we have season 1 and season 2. Let me show you something that will make this clearer. If I come over here now, if I double click on Fustaka, I have season 1, I have season 2. For me to be able to access the content of season 1, I would need to double click on season 1. I have double clicked on season 1, it shows me nothing. Now the equivalence of double clicking into season 1, that is what we have called CD, which means change directory or to change folder. Now which directory or folder do I want to go to? I want to go to season 1. All right, if I press enter now you will now see from Fustaka, it now shows me I am now in what? Season 1. So CD season 1 means I have now gone inside season 1 folder. So I am inside season 1 folder, which is inside Fustaka folder, and Fustaka folder is inside my Apple folder. All right, so what else can I do over here? If I press ls now to display the list of items, it shows me nothing. So inside season 1, I can now create an episode. I can write code, which is to create a file. I can now say, okay, why don't I code let's say episode 1.py. all right, now I will be able to see, let me save this. Now I can now say inside season 1 I have episode 1.py, and then let me now also even code episode 2.py, enter, and then if I save this as well, now I now have inside season 1 folder I have episode 1.py and episode 2.py. If I press ls, and then you can now see we have episode 1 and episode 2. Now one other thing you must know again is by the time your terminal you're having too much of content there, you can type clear or Ctrl L. all right, and then everything clears off. So now if I type ls, we can now see that in season 1 we have episode 1 and episode 2. So let me also come here, and then so we see now we have inside season 1, if I double click, which is like CD into season 1, we have episode 1 and episode 2. Now if I want to go back to my previous folder, which is the Fustaka folder that has season 1 and season 2, I most likely of course need to press the backspace, right? I need to go back. So the equivalence of going back to the previous folder in VS Code is in VS Code terminal is cd space and then just type ... cd space ... enter. Now I am now back to Fustaka. If I now press ls, I can now see season 1, season 2. I am no longer seeing episode 1, episode 2. Episode 1 and episode 2 are inside season 1. So for me to go into season 2 now, I will now also say cd season 1, season 2, enter, and then I can now start creating any file that I want to create inside season 2. Okay, I can do something like cd, and then I can let me code, and then let me say intro.py, enter, and then if I save this, so we now see that inside season 2 we have intro.py, inside season 1 we have episode 1 and episode what, and episode 2. So now these are the basics. Now there's something else I can show you. We can of course rename. If I come over here to intro, I can click on this, and then I can right click, and then you see rename. That is me doing things with the what, with the GUI. I think if I also come here as well, and then if I click on season 2, if I right click on this, I should be able to rename it as well. Now the equivalence of renaming GUI, you can in CLI now is you write MV, which is for renaming here, and then I can say I want to rename intro.py. Let's say I want to I want to call this one, let's say pilot.py. So I'm no longer calling intro.py as intro. I want to give it pilot.py. mv space, what is the name of the file you want to rename, followed by the space and then the name, the new name. Enter, and then you can now see intro.py is now what? Is now pilot.py. Another thing I can do is I can move a file from a folder to another folder. I can move a file from a folder to what? To another folder. And then how do I do that? So I can just say, okay, mv, let me move this pilot.py. I want to move it away from season 2. I want to move it to the parent folder, which is the Fustacker folder. Space dot dot, and then you can now see that pilot 2 has left season 2. It is now what? Inside Fustacker. So season 2 no longer has any file. Season 1 still has episode 1 and episode 2. So Fustacker has season 1, season 2, and pilot.py. So if I press ls, inside season 2, it's empty. If I cd dot dot, which means to go back to the previous folder, which is Fustacker now, ls, and then we now have pilot.py, season 1 and season 2. Now remember, to remove a file, I can say rm, let me remove pilot.py, enter. Now it has been deleted. Now I can also remove a folder as well. So I think that is rmdir, remove directory. So let's say season 1, and then okay, it says directory not empty because it has what? It has some files. So let's say rmdir, let's say season 2, okay, and then we see that season 2 itself has been removed. And then we can also go into season 1. We can say, let me clear this first, Control L. So we can say cd season 1, right, and then ls to show us the list, and then I can just decide to remove both episode 1.py, all right, and I can also remove episode 2.py, right. And then because I now want to remove this folder, which is season 1, I will need to move away from the folder first. If I press ls here, I can see season 1, and then I can now write rmdir to remove directory, and then season 1, and then you can now see Fustacker is now back to how we started with them Fustacker. So those are the basics for VS Code. Keep practicing. You can search more for these keywords. There are just lots more that you can do with VS Code. Now VS Code is not only the IDE. As you begin to get comfortable with programming, it is always better to also explore others, especially in this age of AI. It's important. And that's the end of this video. Subscribe to this channel for more content on programming.